What was it? I'm sorry.
I hadn't put it up on the screen yet. Hi, this is Greg Suddy on Soccer. I am here with the one and only Boris Pardo. Boris Pardo, San Diego Sockers goalkeeper. Thank you so much for joining me today, my friend.
Thank you. Thanks, Greg, for having me, and I appreciate everything you do. This has been a fantastic stream, and I watch it, so it's exciting to be on this.
Well, that's great. I appreciate hearing that. Yeah, it's a labor of love. As you know, I've been a part of, at least following this game for many years, and it's a beautifully wonderful opportunity for me to get to know you guys personally, to be a part of representing this sport that we all love and commit so much to. What I would like to do, Boris, is let's start from the beginning. I mean, we're going to get to some of the conversation about the World Cup and what's coming up here in the MASL season that's coming up this weekend. Everything is getting started. I mean, we're really close, buddy. But let's get started with where you came from, man. I mean, you're Queens, New York. Talk about your childhood growing up. What brought you to soccer?
Yeah, born in Queens, New York. Grew up going to Flushing Meadows Park, watching my father play, and then moved out towards Hillside, New Jersey, which is just outside of Newark and Union Elizabeth, if anybody's familiar with that area. But grew up majority of my life was in New Jersey, and elementary school, high school, and then obviously university. I was at Seton Hall. So yeah, I mean, I have family still in New York.
Right.
Growing up, going to the Chilean festivals on the 18th of September, eating empanadas and enjoying wine with,
nice.
Obviously as a college, when I was older, but it's just great memories from the East and great memories watching my father play and being around it all the time.
So you mentioned the Chilean festivals. I think I'm not sure people know that is your family heritage, that your family is from Chile.
Yeah, both my parents, they were born in Santiago, and I actually grew up going back and forth a lot. And part of my playing days, I was in Chile for a year there. But growing up through an academy when I was younger, I was with Colo Colo,
right,
and the Universidad de Chile Academy, which I played alongside some players when they were younger that ended up playing, big leagues and big clubs. So, like Claudio Bravo was one goalkeeper that I grew up with in the academy in Colo Colo, and he ended up being, national team goalkeeper. And that when I was at Universidad de Chile, I was with the first team. Marcelo Salas, he came back from Italy. So Marcelo Salas was a player that I was alongside on the training grounds and learning a lot from. Johnny Herrera, who's another national team goalkeeper. So it was, growing up through the academies and being in Chile was a huge part of my knowledge and career playing wise. But, it's just, it all goes back to the heritage and my parents and them keeping me connected with my family down there.
So, as you're growing up and you're playing soccer, you just mentioned the goalkeeper. Were you sort of gravitated towards the goalkeeper's position from the beginning, or did you play field?
So I grew up playing field first in the rec leagues. My father, he started a rec league in Hillside, New Jersey, and just because he wanted to keep us off the streets. It wasn't, the safest town,
Nice.
But he created it, and he had a great response from all different ethnicities. So it was great. And he was teaching the game that kept him involved, and he loved it. So when I played rec, I was a field player, just running around, and I was a little overweight too, just kind of enjoying it, playing. And then, when my father started a travel team, club team that would go, around the state and participate in state cups and all that. He needed a goalkeeper. He had one goalkeeper that was too old, and then he looked at me and he's like, "Oh, you should play in the goal." But he's trying to hint towards me, but I knew what he meant. It was like, you're a little too heavy to be on the field running. I got better players than you, so get in goal. But it was funny because he actually put me with a coach that helped me with goalkeeping and just learning with my hands, and I enjoyed diving, and I just grew into it. But I was a field player first, and then as I grew into the goalkeeper position, I was very fortunate enough to goalkeeper coaches that would teach a lot with their feet, that were very Ajax based, like a sweeper, keeper, and so you're still that extra player. Right. So even outdoor, that was a thing. I was another field player, forwards or press, and that'd be easy. It's like, oh, okay, you're gonna go there, I'm gonna go here, find a pass, and so it was fun. But yeah, I grew into it because I was the overweight one, and my dad helped out with that. So thanks, Dad.
Wow. Well, and you've really embraced it. I mean, we'll kind of get here in a little bit, but your professional numbers have shown that you have a clue what you're doing back there. I mean, you've got some great numbers. You've got some great recognition in the more recent years of your career. But you played at Seton Hall. You mentioned the Seton Hall. Talk a little bit about that, because I know that you set a school record for shutouts at Seton Hall.
Yep, I'm still number one for all these years. I remember a buddy of mine not too long ago. He's like, "Dude, you're still up there on the list." I'm like, "What? The shutouts? I thought I was going to get beaten out after this. The last couple of years they had good runs, and
right.
Oh, well, you're still up there. That's cool. It's fun,
Yeah,
But that is pretty cool. Yeah, that was something that our head coach, who, I mean, I hold him near and dear to my heart, Manfred Schellscheit. He's in the Hall of Fame. I mean, the coach was just unbelievable in how he spoke to players, and he knew how to get the best out of you. He's so consistent with his shooting. When he grabbed the goalkeepers, he just hit the corners every time. But besides the technical part and him being able to play still with us in college, he just knew about the game, and he wanted to learn more about the player and the person, that you were not just a great player, but just a great person, human being. He taught so much of the game just by telling us that the game is the best teacher. So there's a great video out on YouTube that his granddaughter did, Brittany Bartog. She put a beautiful video, and it was about it's about Manny. It's about where he came from, and it's about his philosophy as a coach and with the youth. And that's why he's been the mentor to Bob Bradley. He was a mentor to Bruce Arena. Oh man, I remember I was in college and I needed to speak to Manny. It was like more of a personal matter, but I knocked on the door in his office and he's on the phone. I was like, "Hey coach, you have a quick second?" He's like, "Yeah, sure." Hey, he spoke like Elmer Fudd, like, "Hey, Bruce, I gotta give you a call back. One of my players just came in." And so, like, well, okay. He's like, "No, it's okay. It's just Bruce Arena. Don't worry." He's just asking about
it's just Bruce Arena.
Just asking a couple questions about where to play Clint, and it's Clint Mathis. And so we're like, I was like, "Oh, okay." But he always made time for us, no matter what. He was there, and his just knowledge was incredible. But yeah, Manny just knew how to get the best out of you.
What about, speaking about coaching? What about different coaching styles? Obviously every coach has his own individual style, but there tends to be kind of two sort of camps. You got the one guy that sort of yells and screams and slaps his hand and sort of tries to push you with, strength and intimidation. And you've got the other guy who gets to know the player, gets to know the subtleties of that individual. And I know that some players respond differently and positively to both to both kinds. I mean, some players really need that strong, vocal kind of coach, in your face kind of coach, and others really need that kind of personal connection. What are your takes on that? I mean, I know you've experienced both.
Yeah, I've experienced both. I've experienced, the militant coach, the no BS and do as I say, and that's that. That was club. So, the PDA and Match Fit, those big clubs in New Jersey. I was part of the Match Fit, the first generation Match Fit Academy team, and that coach Malcolm Murphy was no nonsense. He was a great coach. John Calcaterra was another, great coach that they were great with the youth boys. As a young kid, you need that. You definitely need that, but you also need a coach that you're not afraid to, go up to him if there's ever any issues on the personal side, or if there's any, understanding that you're not afraid to ask questions. So as a coach, you don't want to be too heavy on that firm hand side. You do need that balance, and I think that the understanding the player and knowing that as different age groups require those different types of coaches, and as a men's coach,
interesting.
I had experience last year. I was with Union Omaha of the USL one. I can't talk to those grown men the way I speak to like a 15, 16, 17-year-old, player that, is a hothead. It's different. So you have egos and you have more, there's a lot more to work with and understand. So you do have to take a step back, self-reflect and run through a few questions before you ask them and kind of take the information in first. So you have to be a little bit more reserved with the older players and men's or women's. So I think I learned a lot as a coach over the years, and last year, especially last summer. And it helped translate to how I communicate with a lot of the guys. So, not the same thing in the back as a goalkeeper. It's the same. You can't talk to all the players the same. Everybody's going to be different. Everybody receives the information different. Some players are going to be more explosive when they react, and some players are going to be able to take it but not give you anything back and like, hey, did you understand? No. So you do have to get a feel for the person first, and then and obviously their playing abilities and the ins and outs of what they can and can't do. So a lot goes into that, and you want to be that balance. If there's any questions, they can come to you and talk. So yeah, it's being a coach is fun, and that's definitely something that I want to do when I'm done.
That's awesome. So I'm going to take a little bit of a break here and sort of redirect to some of the watchers. You guys that are watching this show on MASL Off the Wall, whenever you put up a comment, it says Facebook user, and you are not ID'd as who you are. So if you're on MASL Off the Wall watching and putting up comments, you can either write your name there, or you can go to Study on Soccer Facebook or Study on Soccer YouTube and watch that. And there, from those two formats, you will get your name on the screen. On that note, what we have on the screen right now, and this is just sort of a sidebar to somebody that someone's asking, looking at schedule and division, Boris, what do you see as your main rival?
I mean, our main rival is going to be Chihuahua, obviously, because they knocked us out last tournament. So that's the game that I'm looking forward to, and the one I'm preparing the most for. And I'm not taking anything away from Tacoma or Empire or Mesquite. Every team is solid, strong. It's just that sour taste in your mouth of losing at home like that. It's just you want to get back out there. So I think they're going to be our main ones, but we played Tacoma and Empire 6 times. I mean, one can say we are like huge rivals because we're always playing each other. But I think it's always been our rivals has always been south of the border. And then what's score?
Yeah, that is the truth, isn't it?
Yeah, and it looks like there's another question. So yeah, the score. I mean,
yeah. Also, what score does a goalkeeper consider is successful performance?
Wins will win in indoor, right? So, but I mean, for me, 3 goals or less. 3 goals or less. So
Gotcha.
that's been our goal, and that's our kind of our thing before every game. What we train for. You keep a team 3 goals or less, you have a better chance of winning.
Indeed. Well, and it also looks good on your goals against average, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's the last thing. That's honestly the last thing. Wins when the wins come, then all that follows in place. But it's never been something that I've really focused on. It's just like, all right, you win,
Right.
that's it. And if you get recognition, great. If another goalkeeper gets it, great. I think it's just if you do your job right, you keep it at 2 or 3, then everything else will fall into place.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty rare when the San Diego Sockers play an indoor soccer game and are not able to score 4 goals. So if you hold the net with 3 or less, then it's probably going to come out as a win.
Yeah, definitely. The and defenders, we all preach it, and we all tell everybody, okay. And the tough thing too is, like, let's say they already scored 3 goals in the third quarter, then you know what? Raise the level up. We're shutting them out this quarter. And
That's
now
right.
it's like, okay, we've already passed our mark, no more. So yeah, you're gonna have games that are scored more on you. It's indoor. You're gonna get 4 or 5 past you, and
Right.
those are you never know what could happen.
Right.
But yeah, the ultimate goal is for that, and obviously win.
So I've got another person here who's asking about Milwaukee. Are you excited to come to Milwaukee for the first time in the regular season? Now, is that actually going to be your first time in Milwaukee during the regular season?
No, it's not my first time.
As
I've had my as a soccer. Yeah, as a soccer, I think we played one other time before. No, we didn't. Yeah, this I think this is the first time, so that's a good one because we played them here. We never played there during the regular season, but I know that when I was with Kansas City, we did I played there plenty, and I'm familiar with the arena, so I'm excited to go back there. I love that arena. The fans are fantastic. They're great. The atmosphere is electric. They put on a good show, and they're going to have a squad. So I'm excited. It's going to be a challenge, and it's going to be my 40th birthday, so it's going to be fun.
Oh, really? That game will be your 40th birthday?
I believe so. It's that one or Kansas City, but that weekend, I can't tell you. Can't remember exactly, but it's the 22nd, so it's one or the other.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, an early welcome to the over 40s club.
Jeez. Yeah, I try not to think about it. I don't feel it at all, so I'm happy about that. That's all I could say. The number is 40 is a new 30.
Ironically, bringing up birthdays, the opening home opener for San Diego is the day before my 64th birthday. So
wow.
I'll be trying to celebrate my 64th birthday at our home opener here in about a week or so.
That's awesome. We'll get you a dub, man. Get you a dub.
Yeah, I know, right? So after Seton Hall, what was the next step along your career, buddy?
Seton Hall, we had a good run. We made the NCAAs every year. We made a tournament. We made the finals in the Big East, lost in PKs, couldn't beat UConn. But we always won like top teams. And then after that, you always have a supplemental draft or the draft. I didn't get drafted. So I always had that connection with my academy growing up in Chile. So the club, Universidad de Chile, said, okay, well, come down here when you're done. And you're part of the family. You're ours. So I went, was with them, and learned a lot. Was playing down there, and then it was just crazy things. So I was there for about a year by myself, living down there. Made a lot of good friends. A few friends that are still playing now in the first division, Chilean first division. We went to. Sorry, backtrack. So after that, I was training one day, and Peter Vermees and Kurt Nolfo. So Peter Vermees, who's the head coach of Sporting KC right now. Kurt Nalfo, who's I think he's part
Right.
of the Revolution, but he was the head coach of Sporting at the time, or Kansas City Wizards. He was the head coach. Peter Vermees was the GM. They were down in Chile for one day and were heading to Argentina to scout players. So they ended up at my club, and the coaches were like, "Hey, Gringo, come here." They call me Gringo. So, "Hey, Gringo, come here. These coaches are from America. You should talk to them. Maybe might be an in to go home if you want." I'm like, "All right." And it was a side conversation. So I went. They introduced me, and it was Peter Vermees, and Peter Vermees were talking. I'm like, "Peter Vermees, wait, you went to Rutgers too?" And so then we started talking. All the same people and how soccer is such a small world. And then he actually did some reference calls. He called Manny. He called a few other coaches that we know, and they recommended me. And he invited me up to a preseason, and I made the decision to leave Chile to go to Kansas City. So that's how I ended up in KC. I went straight there from here. The crazy thing, another story on that was when I went through my first year there. I went through a whole preseason with Kansas City, and then it was in Argentina. So we played Boca Juniors, River Plate, San Lorenzo, Defensa Justicia. We played a lot of teams down there. We did the whole Bradenton, Florida IMG training camp as well. So I did a full preseason. The very last day coming back, Kurt Nalfo pulled me in and he released me. So I was just heartbroken, absolutely heartbroken. All the feels, right? You're getting all the feels. So I was released. I came back to New Jersey, and I actually decided to stop playing. I was like, you know what? I'm done. I quit. I bagged all my stuff. I threw it in the basement, and I was like, I put in too much effort to this for this to be the story. It can't be, but all right, what's the next thing? I was going to get ready to work. I was actually going to go to police academy. That was like the goal, was to try and get into the state police academy, because my roommate in college was his father was the chief of police, and that was my in. And I studied criminal justice, so that was supposed to be the route that I was going to start. And 2 weeks after I come back, 2 weeks later, Peter Vermees calls me, and I'm driving, and he calls me, on the phone, and he's like, "Hey, Boris, I wanted to call, let you know that I'm really sorry I wasn't there to talk to you, because if I was there, it would have been a different discussion. But I want to let you know that I have this opportunity to be a league goalkeeper, that, you have a contract, it's with the league, but you're stationed with us. But if there's an injury around the league's going to ship you out." And so I was like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah. But I need to know as soon as possible so we can make accommodations and get you out here to Kansas City, but we would like for you to come back." And I was like, again, all the feels.
No kidding, man.
You know what? Let's do it. I didn't even think about it. I was like, yes, let's do it. I'm not done yet.
Wow.
So then he brought me back to KC. I wasn't even in the mix. And throughout that year, that was a crazy story, but throughout that year, it was just a grind. You trained. You were a practice player. You busted your butt, and they had Kevin Hartman, Kronberg, and Chris Kanopka, who's also from New Jersey. So he was drafted in the supplemental. Wow. Chris Kanopka, great dude. Grew up in the ODP program with him, but he was a year younger. And then me. It was crazy because Chris and I, we never competed against each other, but we knew each other growing up. And I've seen him play. I'm like, this dude. And we played against each other. Actually, we competed against each other in college because he went to Providence and I was at Seton Hall. We played against each other. So he had a great run, great record, solid goalkeeper. But I beat him. I beat him out about 2/3 of the way through the year, and then Peter pulls me in and he's like, "You have a roster spot. You've earned it." And this was before the year was done. Learning from Jimmy Conrad, being the first one in, last one to leave, and playing with all these players: Davey Arnold, Jack Jewsbury, Kevin Hartman, who I still speak with today. Kevin's a good friend.
Yeah.
But it was just, that was exactly what I wanted, to be in an environment like that and to work. So Peter, he came up to me. He's like, "Don't ever change. Stay the way you are, and you're gonna be fine. You're gonna be here for a
Very
while."
cool.
And so ever since then, I stayed with Kansas City. But before he pulled me in, there were a couple injuries in the league. With FC Dallas, they
Right.
pulled me in there, and there was a little. Well, first was Toronto FC. It was their inaugural year, and Mo Johnston was the head coach. So I played there. I didn't play. I was a backup during the first team games. So we go to stadium. You're in the first team locker room. The experience was amazing. And you're with players, that were established. I mean, I can, Marvell Wynn, Danny Dicchio. Again, Mo Johnson was the head coach. You had a bunch of Robinson.
Wow.
Yeah, a bunch of players. So anyway, it was like a few games. I went with Toronto, probably about 3 games. Came back, and then FC Dallas, Shaka Hislop, and Dario Sala. They both got hurt. So then Raymond Burse was the third string who got pushed up to start games, and they called me in. So then I would play the reserve games, but I would still dress with the first team during the first team games. And so performing in the reserve games, I did well. And it was, oh man, I'm drawing a blank with the head coach's name. Anyway, the head coach, he was the assistant coach because the head coach was Shellis, who was, SMU coach, right? So, but his assistant coach, he wanted me bad. And he called Peter Revis. They were going to make the move for me to be permanently in FC Dallas.
Okay.
And then Peter halted everything. He's like, whoa, pump the brakes. We have discovery rights over him because we discovered him in Chile.
Oh, wow.
So they stopped that move, and then I stayed in Kansas City. That's when Peter pulled me into the office and was like, "Hey, you're ours. You got a roster spot." So it was.
Boris, at this point in time, Boris, had you any substantial indoor soccer experience?
None whatsoever.
Really? Not even as a kid growing up? You didn't play indoors?
Nope. Didn't play because it's not that big. It wasn't big on New Jersey. I went to a game in college of the Ironmen. So the Ironmen had a friend of mine, a couple of buddies that played on that team when Pele came to the Prudential Center. That was a big event. But yeah, the New Jersey Ironmen, they played. But I saw one game, and as a kid, I remember going to Lake Placid with my dad, and he would play, but I wasn't paying attention. I was being a kid and going out playing and didn't even think of it. Oh, there's a goal. Okay, let me go shoot and hop in goal. But I never really understood anything about the game. I grew up playing street soccer, futsal, what have you, and using a lot of the sole of the foot, so that wasn't different for me. But when I was outdoor, I had no idea about the indoor game and at the later years. So that's kind of crazy.
So how did you make that transition? How did the transition take place?
So I had a few good years at KC. Then after I was released, the Comets came back, and Kim Runtved took over. You had a different Ed, not the Baltimore Hill. So it was a different Ed. He I got the names mixed up. Sorry, but yeah, he passed away. But this guy, he brought the team back, and I got a phone call from Kim because I guess through the grapevine he heard that, oh yeah, Boris, you can try him out, and he's done playing and he doesn't have a team, so bring him out. So they invited me to an invite-only tryout. I did okay. I had no idea what to expect, but it was rough because I took a lot of close range shots, and I wasn't used to that many close range shots. So I wasn't.
Kidding.
I was thrilled to play, but not thrilled at the same time. I was like, this isn't something that I would like to do, but it'll be cool. So, but that was the year, playing with the Comets. That was the year when Danny Waltman took over, and you had players like Brian Harris, Leo was still playing. I don't want to forget my dudes, but sorry, I'm drawing some blanks here. But Ryan Jung, I can't forget my man Ryan Jung. I love Ryan Jung. He was a big time player.
Right on.
Lefty. but yeah, it was fun, but it was a tough learning curve for me, and being in that environment, it was frustrating. So then sometimes those frustrations came out in a different way, and I was younger. And Danny could probably attest to this, but Danny, I had some tough love from him, but he helped me transition from outdoor to indoor. He taught me a lot about the game over the years. Um, and yeah, but yeah, and Alan Mayer was there in I think on my fourth year with Kansas City. So I only spent a year with Alan, but Alan, he brought some good
Okay.
coaching tips. Learned a lot from him. But Alan,
Yeah.
it was funny because I do this with Victor, and I brought this over here with Victor with the racket, with the tennis racket and the
Okay.
squishy soccer ball. So Alan would have his little
Exactly. Yeah.
racket.
Yeah.
He came to practice, and
Nice.
he's like, "All right, let's have some fun." And so he started whacking these balls at me. I'm like, "Oh, this is fun, and it doesn't hurt. This is cool." But I was a little bit more established in terms of playing indoor that year. But having Alan there was great, and hearing his insight. Meeting Kenny and how passionate Alan was. He absolutely loved everybody, and he loved the game. I
Right.
mean, I have nothing but nice things to say about Alan. He's fantastic, and he did help me a lot my last year there.
He's a great guy, isn't he? I mean,
Amazing. I mean, one of the
not
best.
just yeah.
Yeah,
I
one of
mean,
the
are you
best.
kidding? Are you kidding? I mean, it took years. I watched him play as a fan in the stands and whatnot. Here in San Diego, and then he goes up to Kansas City, and then it's he's going his way, and I'm doing my thing. But it took a lot of years before I actually got a chance to meet him and hang out with him at all. And the
Yeah.
first time I got a chance to meet him was at the MISL 40th reunion in Las Vegas, and he shows up. I'm sitting at a bar, and he shows up, walks over, and sits down next to me, and we spend some time talking. And the guy, and since then, of course, I've had a chance to hang out with him in Kansas City and San Diego. He's just an outstanding man all around, isn't he?
Yeah. And I got to correct myself here because I actually just said, too, that I only worked 1 year with him. It was actually a few years, several years. I think it was about 2 years or 2.5. So I apologize for that. And my memory is, you get to 40, man. Memory is not that great. But no, Alan, he took over, and I was there with 3 years, and then there was a gap where I didn't play 1 year, and then I went to Wichita. So I was with Alan for
Right.
about a year and a half there, and then when I came back, Alan was there. So yeah, spent a good amount of time with him. But man, he's one of my favorite people, and he was funny because he would jump in practice at that time. He jumped in, and
Right.
he was so competitive. So whenever he gets scored on, he tried, and if he gets scored on, he just looked around. It's like, "Damn it, Alan!" He like yelled at himself. It was hilarious.
Oh shoot! No, I mean one of the good guys in the sport, and there's a lot of good guys in the sport, and I would rank him up there very high. So I've got another comment here on the screen. I'm going to put it up, and it's a little ahead of our conversation, but we'll kind of go there just for the sake of the question here. It's Boris is a part of an elite line of goalkeepers that have been in net for the Sockers. That being said, let the road to that 17th trophy get started. Well, what I want to comment about, Boris, on this, and use this sort of as a segue, is this is a true statement. I mean, the San Diego Sockers have had, I mean, are you kidding me? From Volkmar Gross to Alan Mayer to Jim Gorsick to Phil Salvaggio to Victor Noguera to Riley Swift to Chris Toth to Boris Pardo. I mean, what an elite group of names that have played well and championship caliber goalkeepers that have been in the San Diego Sockers lineup, and you're the guy holding the crest right now.
Yeah, it's heavy. It's heavy. When I first got here, it's impressive of the pedigree of goalkeepers this club has had over the years, and it's an honor to be a part of it. I mean, you think about it a lot, especially when you hear Alan Mayer's name and Victor Noguera and Zoli. So like those guys,
Right.
like Gorsick, I mean those guys they laid down the tracks. They left a legacy of, there's some big shoes to fill. So, yeah, I definitely do feel that responsibility, and definitely, have enjoyed every second of taking that responsibility. Because, if your head coach is a goalkeeper too, he's part of that. You gotta make sure you're performing. But
No
yeah,
kidding, right?
yeah, it's pretty impressive though with the goalkeepers that have been through here, and it's just an absolute honor and privilege to be a part of this organization and to play for the Sockers.
So I asked. I was having lunch. I don't know. It was probably about 3 weeks ago or so, and I was hanging out with Zoli and Julie, and I asked Julie V. I said, "So Julie, of the goalkeepers that you've ever played with or played against, who would you like to be the guy in the net behind you during the peak years of your career?" And he said, "Well, he says that's a different. Now I wish I could imitate Julie V's voice, but I can't do that." He said, "Well, there's two." He said, of the people that I've ever played with, he said the best technical goalkeeper was Zoltan Tov. He said, but the one that I could count on to win the game for me was Alan Mayer.
Nice.
So
Awesome.
I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a great perspective. Yeah. It's interesting.
Right. Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. So let's go back to in our conversation a little bit. We got a little bit of time still. So there's you're playing in Kansas City. You said you went to Wichita. How long did you play in Wichita?
1 year. That was actually the first time that I took over as a starting goalkeeper, and it was in the MASL. It was a great experience. I mean, the fans there, they absolutely love their soccer, and they're great people. I absolutely loved everybody that was there. Never an issue, and it was just a little unfortunate that they folded because the owner, he didn't handle things properly, and left a lot of players, without pay, myself included. But we all
was that the B-52s?
I'm sorry.
Was that the B-52s?
The B-52s, yeah. That was. I remember the owner. I don't want to even say his name. He doesn't deserve any recognition. But the owner, he stopped paying the guys. This was halfway through the season, towards the end of the season, but halfway through. And we were trying to make the playoffs, and we had decent games. We were above 500, and it was just unfortunate. So you had a lot of players that they relied on a lot on the little that they got, and the fans really helped. There were some fans that were so nice enough to get groceries for some of the guys that lived there. I was commuting back and forth to Kansas City because I was working, and my kids were there, so I drove every morning, like 5 a.m. Drove every morning, 4:30 a.m. to Wichita. So 2.5 hours, train in the morning, and drove back. I destroyed my car, but I would drive every day to and from Wichita because I was still committed to that, and I wanted to be a part of that. So I wasn't the goalkeeper that just came in for games. I was there training and being a part of it. And I have Kim Runfed to thanks for that, to include me in that, to help me with that experience, because it was definitely humbling, and it was definitely a transitional period in my life and career that I bought into it, and I grew as a person because I was willing to sacrifice a lot for the team, for the locker room, and a lot of players that weren't getting paid. We were just like, what, screw it, let's play because the fans deserve it. So we ended up finishing out the season without pay. Yeah, that was a tough year, but
wow.
I was fortunate enough to hop from Wichita to KC. That's when Vlatko gave me the call, and I came back to Kansas City.
So at what point did you end up coming to San Diego, and how did that happen?
Man, that's a tough story. So I was with KC, and there was a national team games with the U.S. Arena team, and we had a game in Cedar Rapids. Phil needed a goalie. Cheeky and Phil, they needed a goalie, and they were like, they called Vlatko. Vlatko, do you have a goalkeeper for us? And they were like, yeah, we got Boris. He's over here. We recommend him to go play. And so I went up. I did well. And Phil Cheeky, never even met him before. I was like, oh, it's San Diego. That's cool. San Diego squad. And I was with Sosa at the time, John Sosa. And
Right.
so Sosa knew him from before. He was familiar with Phil. Met them there at Cedar Rapids. We chatted, and then they invited me to the Sonora game, Mexico, USA in Sonora.
Right.
And
Right.
Phil's
Right.
like, don't worry about it. They're going to score about 13 goals on you. Don't trip. It's gonna be all right. I'm like, 13 goals. Get the hell out of here. I
Yeah.
ain't gonna score 13 goals, bro. I remember last time 13 goals were scored, an indoor game. That was like my rookie year. So
Right.
I was like, okay, sure, fine. We'll see. And after the game, I think they only scored. We lost 7-3, I think, but they got 5 or 6 past me. No, 5. They got 5 past me, and we lost about 7-3. And after that game, Phil comes up to me. He's like, "All right, let's talk. What's going on here?" So then we started chatting, and that
Very
was
cool.
a story there, and we had great conversations, and that was the start of my San Diego career and coming on over.
So was that related to working towards? Was that the 2015 World Cup that they were putting all those games together for,
I think it was.
or was that 2017?
It was after, yeah. So it was. I Phil had no idea who I was, and I shot him an email to try and get on that national team for the Reno World Cup. I shot him an email because I was in
Right.
KC or something. And he didn't get the email, but they didn't know who I was, so they went with whoever was familiar they got, and obviously Danny was number one, of course.
Yeah, Danny played the 2015, I think.
Danny won that trophy for him in the last game with the way he played. So no disrespect to any of the guys playing, of course, but I think Danny played lights out, and he made some saves, and he played on his head. So I think it was after that. And then we started talking. He got to know me.
So Boris, let me ask you a question here. Because when you came into the San Diego Sockers, initially there was kind of a tandem setup going on between you and Chris, playing every other game. Each guy would play the next game, and it was sort of a tandem setup. And now, of course, you're playing as the primary keeper on the team, owning. I mean, unless there's an injury, God forbid, you're the guy that's in the net. How do you feel as a goalkeeper for those two different philosophies of working the net on an indoor field and in an indoor team?
I am not opposed to that, of having two solid goalkeepers and playing that way. I mean, it can work because you also need rest on certain weeks, and there's times where you can be inconsistent as a goalkeeper. So I've never been opposed to that. But I knew coming to San Diego, I knew Chris was here, and the objective was always to try and beat out whoever you're with and to be the number one. But
Sure.
I wasn't opposed to if I played less games or what have you. I was just like, okay, I'm ready to work, and let's see who comes out on top. And I'm not opposed to that. Having two goalkeepers, I think it's great for a team, but it's also some can say that it's better for the league that these goalkeepers are more dispersed and spread out, and then you have goalkeepers too that want to play every game. So me in my younger years, I want to play every game. Like I don't want to share my time. But now as you get older, when you're 35 and up and you're about to get 40, I have no problem with that. Yeah, bring whoever you want. Like I just want to make sure that the communication's good and we're all on the same page of in preparation to the games and what we're going to be playing. It's not like day before you hear, hey, you're in. I'm not a fan of that, but I'd rather have a good week's training and have mental preparation because that's just how I am. I need to know what's going on. If it's in question now, you feel like this sense of insecurity, and then you wonder why goalkeepers aren't confident going into the game. That shouldn't be on the back of your mind. You should know
Right.
all right, you're playing this game. This is yours, and that's that. So that's what I think. But yeah, I
So,
mean, when Chris and I, we had a good relationship, and we had a good thing going.
on that, there's the sort of the thought of, well, for one thing, the back to back games, right? I mean, if you're playing back to back games, are is that any more difficult? Is that really a stress issue? Is that a time when you would like to have another keeper taking the spot? Um, and also, if you're playing back to back, or even just tandem playing, do, does the keeper? This is probably a really stupid and elementary question, but does the position of keeper lose their game face? I mean, not Boris Pardo, because I know Boris Pardo has probably the most awesome game face in the game, but I just when you're dude, when you're on the field, when you're playing, I'm telling you, man, I wouldn't want to come up against this guy. But to my question, does it? Yeah. So anyway, talk to me about that and how the scheduling affects game readiness, or injuries and that kind of thing.
Yeah, so the back to back, it's interesting because there's times where you are going to feel still good to play the next day, and there are times where you are going to feel stiffer. There were the back to back games in Chihuahua. I felt a little bit in the second game, if not as agile, not as mobile. Mentally, you drain yourself out that first game. You give everything you have, and you got to recharge and do it again. So I can only imagine what the field players are going through. So it's it's
Right.
the same for everybody. So there's no excuses. I think field players can do it, goalkeepers do it, but the goalkeeper's on the field the entire time. So it's like you have to be
Right.
on, and you can't just let one or two go past you. And field players, you can get away with mistakes on the field. You can get away with a few things, but in goal, you make those mistakes. It's not helping your team. So yeah, I think games like that, the back to back, do help having two solid goalkeepers that can share that. Who to play first, who to play second, I don't know. That's a coach's call.
Right.
Doesn't matter either way to me. I actually
Right.
used to enjoy the challenge of playing the second game because the second game you might have more action than the first game. So you got to have somebody who's also on fire to play the second game and ready to take that workload. So
Right.
it's different, but I mean I'm not at a point where I'm going to be dead. If we do the back to back, I can take it.
Right.
I'm
Right.
I'm used to it, and my body feels great. But it definitely helps. So with career longevity, for sure. Um,
So let's talk a
but
little
yeah,
bit about something else that helps with
sorry.
career longevity. Something that's going to help a goalkeeper with career longevity is going to be the guys playing in front of you on the defensive lines. The San Diego Sockers have an incredible set of defenders in front of you,
Yeah,
and have had for the last few years. And I mean, let's talk about these beasts in the game, man, and especially bringing in Drew along with Pino and Cardenas and Serta and these guys.
yeah. Can you hold that thought? I'm gonna close this door because I think people are starting to get to the lounge, and it's gonna get loud. So just one quick second. Wonderful. Okay, I'm back. So, yeah, to your question, to your point, I mean, it's unbelievable having these guys in front of me. And no, I would have no success without them being a part of this organization because of just how many blocks, how many players they shut down. So they make my job easier. And also a lot has to do with how we connect and how we talk through
Right.
things and
Right.
obviously the communication part of me relaying information to them because they don't see what's behind them and and a lot of things and the other vice versa too because they say a lot of good things to me and they help pick me up if there's ever moments where I'm feeling
Right.
down and they know me better than most people because they can tell when I'm on and when I'm not. So
Right.
we help each other. We're family. And I think, having players like, Mitchell, Pino, Serta, Felipe, the guys in the back,
Right.
Pee Wee, Rojo,
Yeah.
and now add Drew adding into it. It's just great, and there's still that great communication and relationship. So, I mean, it's yes. And here's another thing too. There's a lot of things said around the league. Oh well, he has the best defense in the league. Yeah, I mean we have solid defenders and we do have the best defensive record in the league, but it's not anybody can step in this position as a goalkeeper and just come out as the best. There is certain
Right.
things and attributes that a goalkeeper has to have to be a part of this organization and to be the steady number
Right.
one. So I mean,
Right.
there's a lot that goes into it, and not to take any credit away, but it's a unit. So there has to be all the pieces of the puzzle have to come together, and I think we've come together over the years pretty well.
Well, and a lot of you guys have been playing together for a long time, and sort of what you were talking about communication, that sort of plays out in the chemistry. You guys know what to expect from each other. You know where each other is going to play and move and be on the field, and how they're going to, thought processes on the field. You guys know each other as well as you do. It's going to be fun to see how Drew comes into that mix. He's a solid player, and I think he's gonna gel really good. I think he's gonna be a really outstanding contribution to the team. So one of the other things I want to talk to you about a little bit about here before we go is you've had a couple of experiences with the World Mini Football World Cup. I know you went to Australia. Did you go to Tunisia?
I did go to Tunisia, went to Australia, and now UAE. Yeah.
Okay. So talk a little bit about how those different events took place, how you felt about the United States performance on the field, and how that, and just overall, just, I mean, world traveler, getting to go, getting to go all over the world.
It's been a blessing. I mean, it's just soccer is just so amazing in that sense that you get to travel and meet people around the world and learn different cultures, and I can't get enough of it. So Tunisia was great. That was an amazing experience. The resort we stayed at, the people we met, the friends we've made, and you start to see these familiar faces over the years in every World Cup.
Right.
So in UAE, you get to know some of these teams after watching them play. That like we lost to the Czechs in Australia, and then we lost to the Czechs in UAE, and that's the frustrating thing for me.
Yep.
Is that we should have known better. We should have been better prepped and understanding of how they played in Australia and how they're going to play against us. Nothing was different. The keeper is going to come up and play six attacker.
That's right.
That's it. We beat Romania and Slovakia. We beat the world champs already.
Right.
We won the tournament in Slovakia.
Right.
Those are the best European teams, and we beat them.
Right. That's right.
So yeah, it was frustrating. Definitely frustrating to come out short of a championship there, because I think clientele we deserved it. On paper we had all the players, and it's just very frustrating that we didn't perform the way we should have. And at that level and against the Czechs, and for them to knock us out again 2 times in a row, I'm not happy about that. So I'm looking forward to the next one. And
no, that hurts.
That's another time for me to get ready for, because right now it's just focused on the league here. But yeah, it was a great experience though, going to UAE and hanging out with some of my bros too, because they were in Mexico and got to see them over there, which was fun.
Right.
Yeah. But
the way I sort of looked at the end of that the most recent UAE event, World Cup, was the United States played Romania to a 0-0 tie during the group stage, and Mexico played Kazakhstan to a 0-0 tie, and then lost in extra time during the elimination stage. And those were in Romania and Kazakhstan were the two teams in the finals. So
Yep.
the United States and Mexico, both of the strong MASL representations, although they weren't there at the end, the team, when they played those teams that were there at the end, they played them well and respectable and earned a spot in the in the conversation, I should say. So what have you got coming up for the season? What do you think is going forward? One question I want to ask you is, do you even give any thought process to the fact that Monterrey is no longer in the West? Does that even affect anything about how you go into the season, or is that just a thing? But also, then what do you expect coming in from the season?
Yeah, Monterey going over to the East, that was a banger, man. That was pretty big, because then now the West is absolutely stacked, and it would be a lot harder schedule wise and games wise. So Monterey going over there to the East would definitely spices things up over there, and brings a different challenge to those teams. And I think it's great for the league. But yeah, I'm gonna miss playing in Monterey. I love playing in Monterey. That stadium was great. I don't know how the new arena is, but the last one they played in, that was fun to play in. I absolutely enjoyed it. For the season, I mean, I look forward to it. The guys, they look good. They look sharp. They, looking forward to seeing a lot of nice goals from the back. Seeing Costa play, jeez, that kid, his IQ's through the roof, man, when it comes to seeing the game. So he's been fun to watch.
Indeed.
Seeing Drew play in the back and just seamlessly come into the team, it's refreshing. It's nice to see, especially, he's a friend too. So it's going to be nice to have that solid line, and all the players, the midfielders, everybody looks ready. Craig, he's fit, he's flying, and Tavoy looks good. So yeah, I'm excited, and I think the standards of this club, nothing short of a championship. We don't just want to get there. We want to win it. I think we're deserving of getting there and winning it. So those are the expectations. And every day in training, we just make sure that we remind ourselves of that. But yeah, it's going to be good, man.
Well, I mean, there's been a lot, especially over the last couple of weeks. There's been a lot of movement, a lot of trades around the league. A lot of players are either re-signing or moving to different teams. New coaches on site, around the league. There's all kinds of kind of new blood taking place. I'm one that's a little skeptical when you start making a whole bunch of changes, how that chemistry is going to work on the field in the first half of the team for some of these organizations. But you got to look forward and trust, that the guys in the back office or front office, I should say, know what they're doing and have a plan and are going forward. And I'm fired up for the MASL season coming up here in just a matter of days. I mean, we're here, buddy. We're here. It's happening right now.
Yeah, it's great, and the way the league has evolved over the years, it's great. They're taking the steps in the right direction. It would be nice to get a little TV deal. If you can get pickleball on TV, I think you can try and get MASL on, right? But I'm not knocking pickleball, because I'm a big pickleball player. So I play a lot. I love the game, man. I play a lot. And it's funny because I played with Chris too a few times, but it helped me a lot in the offseason. I played almost every day in the summer because with the lateral movement, quick hands, it just kept me sharp with the hand-eye coordination. So I love it. But yeah, I think that would help a lot. And I know Twitch is a good thing. A lot of people like to use Twitch, but it was just so much easier to use YouTube, in my opinion. So. And you could find games a lot easier as opposed to 5 different channels. So that's kind of weird.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, from where and I've said this a number of times, from where I'm sitting, the big advantage. So this is the big difference between the two formats. With YouTube, it didn't get any viewers that weren't already fans. The only people that watched the games on YouTube were already fans. Nobody's going through YouTube and they're finding the MASL YouTube and watching it, having never seen it before. As with Twitch, though, that's not the same story. With Twitch, you have so many people just scamming through, scrolling through the events and activities that the league has had a whole bunch of brand new fans being introduced to the sport that would have otherwise never seen it before. And those are kind of the two organ. But as far as the ease of watching it, you're spot on. I mean,
that's the stressful part of it.
Yeah,
I totally get the number of views. Absolutely, it's fantastic. It's just I don't want to go through 5 channels to scroll through, and then you have one channel with one game on, and then you have another, MASL 3, and it's just like that's. If there's a little bit more organization in handling that, man, is there a recommend, like a little box, like something that I could put a little note in there for somebody and like, hey, can you just change this? That would be great.
Boris Pardo, I want to thank you so much. So here, let me put that up there again.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, so Gabriel is,
that's true, man.
Right.
Yeah.
So, Boris Pardo, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you so much, and I appreciate getting to know you and watching your career, how it's gone forward. As one of my shout outs, as you I think have probably heard 1,000 times before, is take no prisoners, and I mean that seriously. Take no prisoners. Let's win them all, kill them all,
kill them all, take them all. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Greg, and everybody watching. I appreciate you guys watching and supporting the league. And Greg, thanks for doing this, because it just brings a lot more awareness to the league and the players. Really appreciate what you do. Thank you.
I appreciate you too. Thank you very much, Boris Pardo, San Diego Sockers goalkeeper. Thanks for joining me today, buddy.
All right. Thank you. See you guys.